Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome to another movie review. I believe this is actually only the second movie review I've done on the channel. I did Dark Side of Dimensions. I do plan to do Pyramid of Light and Bonds Beyond Time. I figured I would start at the very beginning. I don't know if you can even really qualify this as a movie since it's only about a 28-29 minute episode or movie, whatever term you want to use, but the title of this episode, of this, sequence of events is Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie. It was produced by Toei. I believe it was the last thing Toei produced, Yu-Gi-Oh! Related, and it does take place in the Season 0 setup, but it takes place pretty obviously in the middle of Season 0, not at the end of Season 0, although the movie was produced after the original, I believe, 28 episodes or whatever it may have been, aired of Season 0, so kind of confusing. The movie, even though it was made after Season 0 came to an end, was a movie that took place in the middle of Season 0, and the reason that is kind of confusing is because, the whole thing with Season 0, it's Seto Kaiba versus Yami Yugi. It's Seto Kaiba versus Yugi. In their first match, they draw. And we know that this is in the middle of Season 0 because Kaiba talks about how he needs to get revenge on Yugi, and he's upset that their last duel ended in a draw, and they need to, settle the score once and for all. Something along those lines. And had this been at the end of Season 0, Seto Kaiba would have obviously remembered the Yugioh duel. So this clearly takes place before the Yugioh duel. The only problem is it kind of leaves a little continuity error because Seto Kaiba, and no one for that matter, ever mentions this sequence of events happening. There will be major spoilers about this, so if actually you want to watch the movie, if you haven't watched it, you can watch it, pause the video right here, then come back and listen to my thoughts. It's probably been a long time since most of you have watched this movie, but hopefully you remember it decently, or hopefully my review will jog your memory a little bit, but this will be full-blown spoilers. I'm actually going to start with the spoilers right now, so click off the video if you do not want to be spoiled. The big spoiler, obviously, is that Yugi ends up defeating Kaiba. And going back onto my point with the continuity error, Kaiba references the duel. It's been a year since I watched Season 0, so I might be a little cloudy on this. I am a little cloudy on it, but I'm almost positive that Seto Kaiba wanted to reduel Yugi in the Yugioh duel, and he used the same logic. It was because they drew. I even think that during the whole Death Tea, when Yugi is getting to Kaiba and they're going through these, mini games that Seto Kaiba set up, right? But and Yugi didn't duel Mokuba. He versed Mokuba in that capsule game, and then he went and versed Seto Kaiba. I'm pretty sure Seto Kaiba references that their last duel ended in a draw and that they need to settle the score. But because this duel happens in the Season 0 universe, that's not the case. Unless you just say, well, this is not canon, but it clearly is canon because Kaiba references the first duel. I don't know. I'm someone who's very anal about continuity, so that probably isn't an issue to anyone else but me, and it's a very minor issue. Overall, I know I just started on a very negative thing. I just wanted to get that out of the way with. Overall, I actually really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the movie. The story, and again, not really a movie because it was only 30 minutes. That's why this review will be nowhere near the Dark Side of Dimensions review. I think the Dark Side of Dimensions review was 35 minutes. That'll probably be how long the Pyramid of Light and the Bonds Beyond Time review will be as well. This one will definitely be probably 10-15 minutes or so. It told a very classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Heartwarming story about, a kid who's scared. He gets this really powerful card, which is Red Eyes Black Dragon, and that's maybe why I have a very soft spot for Red Eyes. I love the deck. It's one of the only decks I know how to decently play in real life and on YGO Pro. I love the design of the Red Eyes archetype, and so the fact that this was a movie almost based around that card, about how powerful of a card it is, I think is awesome. And so that might be why I personally really love the movie. The second I actually realized, because I knew nothing about this movie going into it, the second I realized that this was kind of about Red Eyes Black Dragon, I was hooked. I was very excited. I wanted to know more. I wanted to see, the combos and the ways that Red Eyes would be able to overcome Blue Eyes White Dragon, which is what happens at the end of this. So as a big Red Eyes fanboy, one of my favorite monsters, if not maybe my favorite monster, I loved the movie for that reason solely. But again, it's about a kid who's too afraid to duel, who gets this very powerful, rare Red Eyes Black Dragon card in a booster pack, but he doesn't want to duel anyone with it, because he knows if he loses, then he's worthless. That's how he sees it. If he loses, If he loses with the Red Eyes Black Dragon card, there's no point for him to duel anymore. And so he has this super rare card, and he's using it as leverage to all these bullies that are coming up to him. He's like, I have this Red Eyes Black Dragon, I'm a great duelist, but he won't use it because he's too afraid. And of course, through Yugi, I guess you can also credit Joey Janucci, he overcomes his fears. And of course, Seto Kaiba comes along the way in classic Kaiba form. Kaiba, he's an asshole, but he's a different kind of asshole. He's a much bigger asshole, I feel like, in Season 0. I don't even think that's before the Mind Crush. There's pre-Mind Crush Kaiba, and there's post-Mind Crush Kaiba, and pre-Mind Crush Kaiba is a real a-hole. So Kaiba gets these goons to go and steal the Red Eyes Black Dragon card, and that's what happens. Joey tries to fight them off. Yugi and Shoga is the kid, by the way, that the whole movie kind of focuses around. They get their ass kicked. They get beat up by Kaiba's henchmen, and Yugi loses his Millennium Puzzle, and Shoga loses his Red Eyes Black Dragon card. Then Joey goes, and of course Joey, being the absolute badass that he is in Season 0, ends up putting up a decent fight against the henchmen that stole the stuff. He gets Shoga's Red Eyes back, but he's unable to obtain Yugi's Millennium Puzzle. So clearly, right, the whole reason that this happened, by the way, is Kaiba is hosting a tournament, and attendance is mandatory. If you get invited, you have to go. Shoga gets invited, obviously, because Kaiba wants to duel him and take the Red Eyes Black Dragon card. Yugi gets invited as well. Joey doesn't, which is basically a running gag in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, that Joey never gets invited to Kaiba's tournaments, but ends up working his way in anyway. Obviously, there wasn't enough time in this movie for him to do that. In fact, it wasn't even really a tournament. It's just a bunch of duelists going to face Kaiba, getting their ass kicked off screen, until eventually Yugi comes up, the only person worthy of dueling Seto Kaiba. And the penalty for not attending this mandatory contest is to get the shit beaten out of you by a huge security guard, because, you know, why the hell not? It's Season 0. I just love the disparity between Season 0 and, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! As we know it now, and, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. I'm not saying either one is better, but Season 0, it's just a lot more like they did some horrific stuff in Season 0, and and even in the early manga, which is obviously what Season 0 is based off of, and I absolutely love it. So anyway, they get the crap beat out of them because they didn't want to attend this tournament. Yugi says, I can't forgive Kaiba for his methods, because of course he can't. He goes to face Kaiba. Kaiba immediately gives him the Millennium Puzzle. We see the Pharaoh, we see Yami Yugi, and the duel commences. Now, this is the only duel that was shown besides, like, Yugi versus Joey. They were teaching Miho how to duel in the very beginning of the movie. And the duel, I thought, was very enjoyable. I like this duel a lot. This is probably one of my, of course, there wasn't many duels in Season 0. This might be my favorite Season 0 duel. I complained a little bit. I always found it baffling how the Dark Magician never appeared in the Season 0 anime, yet he was in the Season 0 opening. And I always just thought that was weird, that Yugi never used Dark Magician, which is, as we know, his ace monster. But he uses Dark Magician in this movie. He uses Dark Magician, he uses Dark Magical Hats, he uses, like, a lot of, you know, the classic Yugi combos that we know from Duel Monsters with Dark Magician, so that was awesome to see. He ends up countering Blue Eyes' attack by putting a trap card in one of the 4 magical hats, classic Yugi, and of course in Season 0, there were really no rules, so Blue Eyes attacks the hat with the trap card. I believe the trap was Spellbinding Circle, and the trap, kills Blue Eyes White Dragon, but of course Seto Kaiba ends up summoning 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons, and all Yugi can do at this point is keep summoning monsters, and they keep getting obliterated by Blue Eyes. Finally, Kaiba says, you know what, that's enough. I'm activating Stop Defense, which means all your monsters are going to be in attack position, meaning you can't defend your life points anymore. The next attack, you are finished, Yugi. The only catch is Kaiba can't attack the same turn he activated Stop Defense, so now Yugi has, of course, 1 draw, and you already know that Yugi is going to get whatever card he needs. And he actually already had Red Eyes Black Dragon at this point, but he refused to use Red Eyes, mainly because Red Eyes couldn't get over Blue Eyes. Then again, that stuff doesn't really matter in Season 0. He didn't want to use Red Eyes because Shoga, the kid watching who was afraid, who was actually going to leave at one point until Joey convinced him to stay, didn't want to fight. So eventually Shoga gets up, gets a stroke of courage, and says, I want to fight, I want you to summon my Red Eyes. And that is the moment that the Pharaoh I keep calling him the Pharaoh, even though he's not the Pharaoh in Season 0, that Yami Yugi was waiting for. Yami then draws, I believe he drew polymerization, and so he summons the Red Eyes, he activates polymerization, and he summons Meteor Black Dragon, and this summoning was honestly one of the coolest summonings you will ever find in a Yu-Gi-Oh anime. Meteor Black Dragon descends from the sky, destroys, obliterates the 3 blue eyes, and Yugi ends up winning. Kaiba walks away, and that is pretty much how the movie came to an end. I loved the Meteor Black Dragon summoning. I loved the stalling that Yugi did until Kaiba activated Stop Defense, and then once that happened, you knew that it was going to be the next draw. The next draw was it. Either Yugi was going to win or Kaiba was going to win, and I think we all knew that Yugi was not going to lose this duel. And so the movie, only 30 minutes, it was a very short story. I thought it was well done. You know, they did a good job of introducing Shoga's character and making you root for him at the end to gain courage and to say, like, this is my card. I want my card to be fulfilled. Because, again, the Red Eyes Black Dragon, as everyone said throughout the movie, it's not a card that guarantees victory. It's a card that I believe, what did they say, can lead to the possibility of victory, whereas the Blue Eyes guarantees it, the Red Eyes can lead to the possibility of it. Something along those lines. I don't know, I like that quote a lot, especially because Blue Eyes at the base level is stronger than Red Eyes, but Red Eyes has a lot of different plays. Of course, looking at it now, both archetypes have a crazy amount of plays with how the decks have been upgraded since then, but still, what she was referring to, what the shopkeeper was referring to, was that if you fuse it with another monster, you can get a card that is incredible, but you have to have the courage, you have to have almost the balls to go ahead and try to pull off that combo. And of course, Yugi is able to do that, defeats Kaiba. All in all, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a solid movie. Out of 10, I'd give it an 8. I'd give it an 8. I liked it. I don't know, maybe I'm a little turned off that they called it Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie because it was only 30 minutes, and so that to me does not qualify as a movie. The other issue is the continuity. Also, Kaiba's hair is not green. I know at this point they kind of realized that Kaiba's hair probably shouldn't be green. That's at least what I'd imagine, and that's why his hair is just brown in this movie. So there were just minor things like that, but it's so minor. It's an enjoyable movie, and honestly, if you have not seen it, at least watch the Meteor Black Dragon summon, because that was awesome. Seeing all the Red Eyes focus was great. It's kind of funny because we always associate Red Eyes Black Dragon with Joey, yet Joey and Red Eyes don't have any connection in this movie, which was kind of weird to see, right? Red Eyes was such a focal point, and yet Joey had absolutely no connection, no meaning to it. There was no link between him and Red Eyes, that was a little weird, but of course that's coming from someone who, you know, just so heavily associates Joey and Red Eyes because of Duel Monsters and just Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. So overall, I really enjoyed the movie, and I definitely recommend you check it out or rewatch it if it's been a long time. So anyway, guys, let me know all your thoughts on Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie, Season 0, down below in the comment section. I hope you guys enjoyed my review. I thank you guys, as always, so much for watching and so much for the support, and I hope you have an amazing day.